I hope I'm wrong.
All right, we gonna jump right into
children
it,
being
too.
trafficked.
It's probably the first time where you see like leftists and conservatives coming together to demand accountability from the government. Now, I got a legal demand letter with my name on it a couple days ago saying that we were going to be sued for $1 billion by the First Lady if we didn't retract that and issue a formal apology.
The solidified structure that we're standing on is the Earth, and the Antarctic ice wall is around it.
So what's past the ice wall?
Other civilizations.
Oh, shit. Well, hey, guys, what's up? This is
The
Andrew
reaction
Callahan from
goes
Channel
crazy.
5. I'm here at Jubilee, and today I'm surrounded by 20 conspiracy theorists.
Hey man, you know conspiracy theories, man. Those be the man. That be that shit. Nigga
First
be
thing I want
glued
to say to
to
you guys is I'm not here to make anybody look or feel stupid at all. I'm not some kind of like expert debunker. I think that every conspiracy theory has some thread of truth to it, so I'm hoping we can find some middle ground and become friends. All right, my first claim is QAnon is a baseless conspiracy theory. There's no evidence of a global cabal of Satan-worshipping, child-trafficking elites that control everything.
I'm quicker than I look, huh?
I don't know what QAnon is.
Yeah, man.
I'm a little quicker than I look.
Yeah.
So my issue is with the claim in and of itself, right? The
Yeah.
fact that QAnon may be baseless then means that there is no child trafficking ring going on. That's akin to saying that the Easter Bunny is not real. Therefore, there was no conspiracy to hide Biden mental decline.
Before we proceed, there's definitely horrible child sex trafficking rings that exist in the U.S. I just think that pedophilia is a pervasive problem among all crests of society. I just think that the rich have an easier time covering it up because they can pay for lawyers and they have money to keep people quiet.
That in and of itself is a conspiracy that you just described.
Well, then I'm a
You just
conspiracy
described
theorist,
a
I guess.
conspiracy.
You know, I just don't think it's limited specifically to an unnamed, anonymous class of baby-eating elites.
Well, let's say the NGOs that are unnamed, right? We have humans being trafficked in migrant camps going all across Mexico. Somebody pays for that,
Right.
whether it's NGOs, whether it's the UN.
Yeah.
We have pedophile rings that we know have been exposed throughout the Catholic Church. It's hard to get more elite than the Vatican.
Right.
Right. Then you have people that are hiding, obviously, what's going on with Jeffrey Epstein, Ghislaine Maxwell. So the idea that because we don't know who the tip of the spear is, or that the Cobra hasn't shown its head, means that there's no cabal behind the scenes. Somebody is coordinating this. Now, let me put it this way. I wish
Hey,
that
he
there was
just
as much
explaining
scrutiny being
things
applied
great.
to the evidence that we have and that we've presented than there is to the conspiracy theorists that are presenting the evidence, right?
Definitely.
Like, a conspiracy theorist to me is a derogatory claim for people that don't trust
agree.
establishment
Yeah.
narrative, right? But the establishment has done everything they possibly can do to discredit themselves.
And I think that the establishment had a hand in creating QAnon. I think it's the sole biggest driving force in making all...
Careful, Andrew. That sounds like a conspiracy theory.
I'm just saying, it's like, if you think about this, right? Like, we know with the Epstein stuff, there were underage sex trafficking rings that existed, right? Now, think about this logical digression from that. And they're eating babies to get adrenochrome so they can be immortal.
So
think about how different those
I hear
things
you,
are.
and that's disproving the existence of one by continuing to. It's what we call searching for the falsehood, right? So something can't be true because 3 steps down the line something is untrue.
I think
that
the first
doesn't
thing
mean
is
the
true.
first thing is true.
Yeah.
We can agree
Yeah.
that there are children being trafficked.
Yes.
We can agree that it seems to be some sort of systemic, industrialized component to this child trafficking, right?
Absolutely.
Okay. So then somebody has to pay for that. Somebody has to organize that.
Yeah.
Somebody with means, somebody that could be, I don't know, classified as an elite.
Yeah.
And that could be an elite child conspiracy, right? To traffic children.
Could be a cartel middleman
It
with a bunch
could.
of money, man.
And listen, what I would say is this. What people that trust establishment, not that you're one of them,
Yeah.
what I wish that they understood is that we agree with them in that I hope I'm wrong.
Right.
Like, the establishment wants me to be wrong, and I want me to be wrong. I don't want there to be children being trafficked.
Right.
And I don't want our government, our taxpayer dollars, having anything to do with it. But I think that a conspiracy theorist used to be called an investigative journalist.
Yeah.
We have questions. And I think that those questions deserve to be answered. And
Yeah.
I think that that's the issue here. When people say, no, there's no list, stop asking questions, move on, well, then we feel like we should ask some more questions.
Yeah, and I feel like that it's got to be less than 10% of the population who says there's no list. Let's move on.
Yeah, they
I think
happen to all be in
right
charge,
now
though.
is probably the first time where you see like leftists and conservatives coming together to demand accountability from the government.
No doubt about it.
And I think that QAnon was probably a psyop in of itself by Steve Bannon, Miles Kuo, a variety of strange actors that work with the Watkins family and 8chan to basically discredit people from actually putting the target where it should have been, which is right in front of our faces. The richest people in the world, most of them you can look their name up. Not saying there isn't people who are just random rich financiers that are anonymous, but you can look at companies like BlackRock, Vanguard. You can look up online. We all have iPhones, right?
Yeah.
Apple, these major social media platforms have CEOs. The Saudis, the richest people in the world are operating in plain sight. And so I feel like when you aim the target at this unnamed, mysterious cabal of people eating babies in the hills, you're basically creating a thing that doesn't exist to convince people to look in the wrong
But
direction.
who is doing that, right? Like you said, we can look up the richest people in the world, but we're everyday people.
Yeah.
We have jobs, we have things that we're supposed to be focusing on that are outside the realm of information finding. We don't have the time to go through all of the different NGOs that these people have created to hide themselves from this.
Right.
This is the job of journalists. This is the job of our media. Unfortunately, our media has been captured by these same elites that you're talking about. Not to bring up another conspiracy theory here, right?
That
But
boy- hey, that
this
boy's
is what used
talking.
to be the
That boy
the fourth
talking.
estate, right? We used to be able to trust journalists to get to the bottom of it so that we, the plumber, didn't have to spend our weekends digging through tax files to be like, oh my God, did George Soros really get $270 million from USAID?
Yeah.
That's not what we planned on
That
doing,
boy
right? This
talking.
was your job. But now the conspiracy theory is anybody that doesn't trust the establishment narrative. They have made us distrust our neighbor and trust the government. They have made us look at each other from a veil of the citizen doesn't have privacy, but the government deserves privacy. This is a matter of national security.
Right.
Well, if it's a matter of national security that we can't know who was selling children,
Yeah.
then I think they've answered the question.
I think
Who's
that
selling?
I think the Epstein thing is probably like the biggest potential breakthrough into dismantling some of those blackmail networks that have kept so much of the media and government compliant. But the thing is, whenever people stop trusting the mainstream narrative, which overall I think is a good thing, it makes way for an entire vacuum.
Give me real quick. Sorry to cut you off. Which is a good thing? Distrusting the mainstream narrative or trusting
when
it?
people stop trusting the mainstream narrative and do their own research, generally that's a good thing. However, that creates a vacuum where people who are even less reliable can fill the void with just different stuff.
But that's okay though, because information is cleansing. Sunlight is cleansing. But best part about the conspiracy community, and I didn't start as a conspiracy theorist.
Yeah.
I'm a guy that trusts the government. USA, baby. But as you pull at these threads, you start realizing the government has lied to us over and over and over again. Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Oh, good job, man.
Hey.
How you doing?
Well, thank you.
Andrew, great to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Thanks
Courtney.
for coming. Thanks, Courtney.
You. I wanted to start with saying I think we agree partway.
Yeah, totally.
I actually think Q was totally a psyop. But I would say that the part about there not being an elite trafficking cabal who are Satan worshiping, I actually think there's a lot of evidence for that. So in any kind of a psyop, typically there's an element of truth. Would you agree with that?
Yes.
Right, because otherwise it wouldn't work.
Right.
So have you heard of Project Monarch?
No, can you fill me in?
Sure. So Project Monarch was a subset of MK Ultra. You're familiar with MK Ultra?
So we're talking about 1960s counterintelligence programs.
Yes.
Got it.
Yeah. Which actually, so the whole term conspiracy theory,
Yeah.
right, was kind of weaponized, right? By,
Yeah. MK Ultra, COINTELPRO, all true.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the term conspiracy theory, I also think like that was weaponized by the CIA.
Absolutely.
Document
Once you
1030.
slap that on somebody, everything they've said is discredited.
Yeah. Where do you think that began?
Probably around the 60s and 70s, similar to slapping the label communist on somebody during the McCarthy
With
Red Scare.
McCarthy, yeah.
Yeah.
So there was a document, it was 1035-960. It was to counter the Warren Commission. They didn't want people investigating into JFK's assassination. So that's kind of where the CIA they slapped them with the label conspiracy theorist.
Of course.
So, okay, so Project Monarch was a subset of MK Ultra, and in MK Ultra, you're familiar with. There was I mean, we have just the declassified documents, so there's a lot more we don't know.
Yeah.
But we do know that there were horrific things done where they were using trauma-based mind control. So MK Monarch was the subset, and Monarch was where they believed that intergenerational trauma would lead to people who are much more susceptible to being programmed.
So you believe in epigenetics?
I do believe in
Okay,
epigenetics.
gotcha.
Yep. Yeah. So have you heard of Kathy O'Brien? She is a victim of Project Monarch, and she talks about she and her daughter were trafficked. So she's one example. I've actually interviewed over 11, and I know that's a small population, but there are people who've interviewed way more than I have who have been satanic ritually abused. And it was all by politicians, big Hollywood celebrities, and then of course we have like Epstein. So what would you say about people who have these stories and they all seem to have shared kind of themes, similar people involved with them?
I think that you can find anecdotal evidence of ritual abuse happening in all layers of society. I also think a lot of this stuff's like lifted from Hollywood. Like, for example, Eyes Wide Shut. Everyone has that sort of in the back of their head when they think about satanic ritual abuse. I'm sure that it happens, but I want to differentiate too, because when it comes to Satan worship, I know I probably, this might not be the most charitable group when it comes to Satanism, but there's LaVeyan Satanism, and then there's Church of Satan. And Church of Satan is very much like atheists who are doing it to make a point. And then I think the ritualized stuff connects to like pagans and sort of like old wealth worship and stuff. I don't know. I could be wrong. But I mean, I haven't looked into it too much because maybe I'm a victim of kind of writing people off when they start talking about satanic Hollywood Hills baby eating parties. I just always think they read it on someone's Facebook account.
You can take a narrative really far, which makes it, kind of discredits the whole thing, right? So just because they may say things that are kind of...
Hey, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Hey, how's it going, man?
Nice to meet you.
Great to meet you. What's your name?
Yasha.
Good to meet you. I don't know what it is, but I can tell you know stuff. Maybe it's the presentation. It could be the haircut. I feel like you're about to drop some serious statistics on me right now, and I hope I'm prepared.
Absolutely am. So, I'm going to ask you some questions just to make sure we agree on the facts, yeah?
Okay.
You agree that Jeffrey Epstein was a child trafficker.
Yes.
You agree that there were elites who were at his island, on the airplane with him, at his parties, around the time where children were being trafficked.
Yes.
You also agree that the elites can't investigate the elites and find something wrong, because if we're asking the people who are on the island to investigate who is implicated in this, they're not going to give us a correct answer.
Not to mention, if you're a journalist and you try to report about it transparently, you can get harassed and bullied. But I interviewed Hunter Biden recently, right? And he suggested, because Jeffrey Epstein said this multiple times, that he introduced Melania to Donald Trump. Now, I got a legal demand letter with my name on it a couple days ago saying that we were going to be sued for $1 billion by the First Lady if we didn't retract that and issue a formal apology. So evidently, there are different lawyers that are going to pressure people into repressing the truth. I also think that the social media platforms are trying to get children addicted to like dopamine rush content, whether it be like semi-pornographic stuff. Like I was watching a music video the other day on my nephew's iPad because he's like 12, and I was like, damn, were videos always this like sickeningly perverted? Then I thought about Flow Rida and I realized, yes, and we were actually like we were like one of the first generations to experience that.
The elites trafficking children is not a baseless conspiracy theory. It's a reasonable suspicion.
Well, there are elites who traffic children. I just don't think it's everybody with money and everybody with a successful
It's not
business.
everybody, but it's enough to shape culture and policy.
Yeah. I also think that many people who were on the island were kind of there, like, they were basically there as part of a honeypot operation.
Absolutely.
And they didn't go there knowingly trying to procure underage children. Not saying it's normal to be on Epstein Island, but I'm saying there was a lot of other things there, extravagant foods, performers, services. I heard Chris Rock was doing stand-up for people at like a 5-person dinner table. So you're thinking, I'm at the place right now, I'm seeing all these trusted icons of media. At the end of the night, you end up with someone you realize after the fact is underage. They've got the video, now you do what they say.
So that would mean that we are ruled by elites who are child traffickers, right?
Yeah.
Or at least we're ruled by people who are blackmailing elites who are child traffickers.
Yeah, I think that at the highest levels of power, especially in this country, you have a tendency toward exploitation, and I guess it's a power trip thing for them.
So then we agree.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
No,
All right, bro.
it was nice speaking to you, man.
Good to
Thank
speak
you.
to you too, man. Hell yeah. Andrew, great to
Nice
meet you.
To meet you. So I just wanted to say the whole like Pizzagate thing, it stems from actually the abbreviation CP, right?
I know that Hillary Clinton was emailing people asking for cheese pizza, and people thought it meant child porn.
Right. So, but like in the like pedophile community, like the term CP stands for child porn.
Yeah.
So like.
Oh, yeah, and for
Yeah,
their
and
community,
so
but
the
for all of
cheese-
us, it just means cheese pizza.
Right, exactly. But so my thing with the Comet Ping Pong, there was a lot of pictures at Comet Ping Pong that were really weird, like putting children in super strange scenarios, like very strange art to have at a pizza wall. And I think that it got misinterpreted. It's not necessarily that there were like children in the establishment. I think they were trying to say this guy is a pedophile and he could potentially be involved in trafficking kids, not necessarily at that location.
One thing I wanted to ask you about is what is the connection between Satanism and pedophilia? Because I went to a Church of Satan gathering, and they didn't really give off pedo vibes. It was more like heavy metal punk rockers who just like hate their parents' religion.
No, 100%. Yeah. I think it stems from like innocence being impurified, and I think that's like what the devil, if you get into religion, that's the whole point of the devil, is to impurify the innocence, right? So like human beings weren't created to like live in controversy and chaos and pain all the time. Like we weren't intended to live that way, but the devil has like infiltrated our lives, and like because of sin, that now we're all in pain. So like I think that's kind of the root of it, is like when you worship the devil, you want to perpetuate his goal, which is to bring more people into what the devil wants for the world, which is the opposite of what God would want.
I guess it's confusing because there seems to be more of a connection between the Catholic Church and pedophilia than Satan.
I would agree that there's a lot of that. I think it's not every church is necessarily godly. You know what I mean? And it's the same thing with like Church of Satan, Christian churches, some Catholic churches. Like I think it's just a part of being godly isn't saying like I believe in God. It's like doing the right thing all of the time. Yeah. So like you could say I'm a Christian, I'm a Catholic, and then if you touch kids, like you're not godly either way.
So for you, like Christianity means like acts of service, like living in kindness, helping your family.
Yeah, like just trying to benefit society, be a better person, be a good example for other people. And the other thing I would say too is like if there's not prevalent Satanism in the mainstream media, why does everyone start off super innocent and then like start dressing like Satan? Is that not a form of worship? It's cool
with the kids. I mean, if you go back to Black Sabbath and Iron Maiden, it was a way of kind of protesting the strict religious households. Hey, that was great though. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate it.
He low-key probably was interested.
Before we go any further, we want to take a moment to say is on Era News to dive deep about the full you deserve in the description. Era News.
9/11 was not an inside job. It was a coordinated terrorist attack by the group Al Qaeda.
He skipped that kind of quick. Like,
Andrew, great to meet you.
Craig, but they call me Pasta.
Hell yeah, why do they call you Pasta?
You know, my Italian grandma used to make me take pasta to school and stuff.
No way, in a bag?
Yeah.
Shout out to your grandma, man. Rest in peace.
Okay, so starting off this discussion, I think we would both agree that fact that we won't know 100% whether it was an isolated issue by Al Qaeda and the little ragtag team versus an actual government conspiracy right now, because we're not privy to all the information, all the texts, right? So we would agree on that. But we would probably also agree the fact that the United States government and the intelligence apparatus has always funded for a long time what you guys in the media call radical jihadist groups, right? From the Mujahideen to even down in Latin America to, you know, the opposition to the Sandinistas, the Contras and whatnot. We're always, So it's not far-fetched to think that there's some type of coordination between the intelligence or the government apparatus and the military between the actual hijackers and what actually took place, correct?
Here's my thing. I don't want to come off like an Osama bin Laden apologist. That's not something you want to be in your life. That's a worse label than conspiracy theorist.
Yes.
But to suggest that 9/11 was fully an inside job also implies that there would be no reason for some people out there to be upset about the things that the U.S. was doing. If you believe that Osama bin Laden's letter to the U.S. is real, it cites a few things specifically. It says keeping our military bases in the Arabian Peninsula after the Gulf War. It says our military support of Israel and a few other things. Now, those are all real things.
Yes.
You know, our puppet states and dictators that we installed in the Middle East, that stuff is real. That's enough to create a vacuum where a bunch of really angry people decide to do something like 9/11. And before TSA, it wouldn't have been that hard. You and me could do it.
Yeah, well, logically, what you're saying makes true, but both things can be true. Both a lot of people in the Middle East, Osama bin Laden, his family, his cohorts can hate us, but also too, it could be an inside job because, like we said, we've already established that the Mujahideen, Al Qaeda, we've been funding them. So, and you weren't involved in media when 9/11 happened, right?
No, I was actually 3.5 years old. I was near where Flight 93 crashed in Western Pennsylvania. So we thought there was planes hitting everywhere.
Yeah. So you went back, kind of did your research, and you formed your opinion now too, as well. Right?
Definitely. Yeah.
So the first part I would point out, and I'd say go back and look at. There's three main reasons why I believe it was definitely a government conspiracy. Number one. is the actual connections between the hijackers themselves, and military intelligence, as well as the government, right? I think a week after, and we're talking about mainstream outlets now reporting on this, Newsweek, I think less than a week after, reported that 5 of the hijackers actually received training in secure U.S. bases. As we started looking at this other stuff and unfolding, we even saw that certain hijackers actually listed naval bases as their address on their driver's license and on their registrations for their cars.
Yeah.
So all these connections that we see, it's very easy to believe, from the jump, that we see all these connections. We see that they're being funded. They were also funded backdoor from military assets of the United States to Pakistan. By looking at that alone, wouldn't that be a little convincing to say, well, wow, there's all this funding, there's all this financing, there's something there?
But if you were to go back to the source of the funding, I don't want to botch pronunciation, but Mujahideen, is that how you say it?
Mujahideen.
So that was Osama was a big factor in that whole group. That was a group that we funded to fight the Soviets in Afghanistan.
Yes.
At some point, maybe a decade or two later, they began using all of the guns that we gave them to perpetrate terrorist attacks at U.S. embassies and at U.S. bases in Africa and the Middle East.
We also know that they didn't stop funding these radical groups in Syria. We had the Pentagon, we had the CIA, all these different groups still funding them to this day. So in other words, there's no evidence that they ever stopped, right? So we understand that there's a relationship between them. The second point of evidence I would also bring up is the whistleblowers and the ex-military intelligence people who were also shut down, gagged, not allowed to speak. I mean, John O'Neill, I don't want to start throwing names out there, but that's one guy who comes to mind who actually died in the World Trade Center because his new job was head of security at the World Trade Center. Well, he was the head of counterintelligence for the FBI, and he quit because he stated every single time we get close to the funding and whatnot, our own organization shuts us down. The CIA, the FBI, they shut us down. So you have all these whistleblowers who say, no, the there is there. We knew Muhammad Atta, right? One of the hijackers was in the United States a year beforehand.
Well, he received flight training in Florida, right?
Yes.
Or I think it was also in Germany. I think there's a big difference between the U.S. government knowingly kind of laxing up security in the lead up to 9/11 because they felt like they needed the public to get on board with their military operations in the Middle East, and they wanted to pass things like the Patriot Act to increase surveillance on citizens. There's a big difference between that and actually doing it.
Yeah.
No,
but I mean, it's kind of like a little contradictory because you're saying all this stuff is definitely happening.
You see what I'm saying?
We'll
talk more about it after. Thank you, bro. Bill and Andrew, good to meet you. I didn't even see you behind me the whole time. Thank you. I like the hair.
Thanks. So, one of the things that I think is kind of missing in a lot of the 9/11 discussion is that, yes, the idea that it was a complete internal conspiracy, that the government completely planned, completely executed, all of that kind of stuff, doesn't really make a lot of sense when you look at the how many people can keep a secret type stuff. However, I think that whenever you look at the intelligence apparatus that was happening before 9/11 happened, both directly and after the terrorist attack done by Osama bin Laden in 1993.
In Tanzania?
No, in New York.
Oh, in the basement?
In the basement of the World Trade Center. After all of the Afghan war stuff, where we're basically paying Osama bin Laden to be our guy in that area, and then after he was completely abandoned by his handlers, and then America did all of the things that it does to piss everybody else off in the world.
Yeah.
And the government at that time was looking to put in a lot of surveillance stuff. We all know about the Patriot Act.
Yeah, absolutely.
And how quickly it passed. So to my mind, there doesn't need to be a grand conspiracy of 1,000 people, 150 people, or anything like that. There just needs to be about 50 that have a vested interest in allowing something to happen that will change the minds of the American people to allow them to be surveilled and to be completely and totally controlled.
Yeah. James, I agree with you 100%. I mean, I think that 9/11 achieved almost all of the goals of the Bush dynasty, which is territorial control over the Middle Eastern resource pool, specifically oil, oil family, and then they needed something so extreme and spectacular and traumatizing collectively that the American people would be like, "Where are you going? Like Iraq? Is Osama there?"
Why
like,
are we
no.
gonna go there?
It's like, well, can get him. Whoever's out there.
Exactly.
And I remember that time period and wondering why we were invading Iraq. I still remember how they would. obscure the messaging of why people had, negative feelings about us. Like I remember asking my mom and dad, I was like, why did Osama
they hate
attack
us?
the World Trade Center? And there was like, some people hate that we can go to the mall
And
and
they
the
hate our
baseball
freedoms.
game, and they hate Jesus. you know?
That is exactly what I grew up in. So
Yeah.
I definitely know that. But
Hey James, appreciate you, homie.
appreciate you.
Yeah,
buddy.
man.
Thank you so
Yeah,
much.
yeah. What's up, bro? What up, man? How you doing, dog? Hey, thank you, bro. I like it.
Okay, my name's Luna. by the
Luna,
way.
before we go,
Yeah,
does
what's
the
up?
tinfoil hat have any actual purpose, or is it more just like for swag purposes?
Swag.
Okay, yeah.
It's under my Dodger hat, just to let you know.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
Hell yeah, man.
But it's a pleasure meeting you.
You too, man.
I had thought about your prompt, and I was like, that's pretty messed up if the government would do this as an inside job. There's
Yeah.
a lot of people that their lives were lost and continue to be lost because of all the debris, the cancer, the trauma, and it's something I don't want to undermine either. This
Yeah.
is very devastating.
Definitely.
The thing that James mentioned that was really good, you guys talked about the Patriot Act. I'm a product of the Patriot Act. I lived a life of crime, drugs, and lo and behold, I live in LA, so lo and behold, when the counties got full, the feds picked up the pace, and so they made these little private prisons, and how they were able to fill this is, I guess, this is how they used the Patriot Act. They started tapping wiretaps without
No warrant.
no warrant at all.
Got you.
So I was like on my indictment, I was like number 23. I was on the low totem pole, but there was 31. Mine was for ghost dope that didn't exist, but it was just a conversation of the dope. But because I had a past, it stuck. And the only reason why I'm bringing this up, and I'm not against it, I thank God that happened to me, because God used all that to utilize me to get clean, to change my life around, and I took advantage of it.
Hey. I ain't even hear y'all. I heard something. What?
You didn't see the car?
No, I was walked in, talking about conspiracy theories.
All I gotta do for real is Son's pictures and shower.
Yeah.
Do you think we could hang this like right here?
Sure.
Yeah, the dude was holding this, making sure he spelled everything right, and it almost dropped. He's like, whoa, he's a quick one. Really? Really? You didn't think my son is quick one. 'Cause I'll show you. He'll show you too. Is that diaper on him?
Yeah.
The one that you finessed?
Mm-hmm.
Good job. Nice, because I was just gonna throw it.
Now, as an adult and a new father and a new husband, I'm a little concerned of the policing of the surveillance of the state, and I feel like I think brother said it really well though. It's like since the 9/11, it was kind of like if it happens, it happens.
Well, especially now with the Palantir stuff, like the surveillance state is just escalating, and the way they're aggregating our data and spying on us basically through our consumption habits and media,
Data mining.
we're going to see a whole new level of surveillance.
And we're getting this information far later than when it actually has already been taking place or created, right?
Yeah, that's the craziest part about anytime you hear about something in the news related to surveillance, it's like it's already happening. You don't hear about it when they're making the blueprint.
Exactly. So my just whole goal to you is just always go with an open mind and always dig. And I know it's very dangerous to dig in some certain areas because corporations are corporations and people are bought with whatever people are bought.
Yeah.
So,
Hey,
I appreciate you.
For sure. You too, man.
Yeah,
Thanks for coming, dog.
Thank
Oh,
you.
yeah. What's going on, man? How you doing? Thank you. Appreciate it. Thanks for coming.
Like to start things that make you say, there was talk about the pilots. We're talking about guys that had very little experience, and it was documented that I believe the pilot for the plane that crashed in Pennsylvania was believed. I'm sorry, the plane that crashed that hit the second tower supposedly was one of the weakest pilots, affirmed by his flight instructor. My question is, to pull off the maneuver that suggested to hit that tower, there are accounts from actual airline pilots and very experienced pilots that said they couldn't make that maneuver. What do you say to that?
Well, what would the alternative be? That it would like they had a professional, amazing pilot in there, and there was no hijackers.
It's not that that's an alternative, but it's like let's compare it to sports. There are some people that are equipped because of their experience and repetition that they can do things that others can't.
Yeah.
Right. So especially you're talking about it's a skill. Flying a plane is a skill. So to be accurate enough to hit that tower where it needed to be, to destroy it in a manner of which it was destroyed, there are pilots that are skilled enough that said that they probably could not have done that. So are we talking about a one-off, an anomaly with someone who is much less skilled than they are?
Yeah. I mean, it didn't look that hard to me. I'm not an expert pilot, nor am I an experienced hijacker. But I mean, it's not like he had to land the plane. You know what I mean?
Didn't have to land a plane. Seems to us that he had to hit an object, right?
Yeah.
But in order to get the result that they got, right? That's first thing that makes you go. Second thing, I remember that day.
Yeah.
I walked out right after the first plane, and I recall an explosion in the second tower. Subsequently, in recent years, like you said, there's footage and firsthand account of witnesses that say that they heard an explosion, a demolition-style explosion. You've heard this from firefighters that were in buildings or surrounding those buildings. You heard this from witnesses that were right near the buildings, and you heard this from people that were actually in the towers. How do you explain that?
I mean, I'm not an expert on building mechanics, but from what it looks like, you had an uncontrolled fire that was raging on the middle floors.
Huh?
We could do something like this, like that, and then there's something. I'm trying to declutter this area up here.
Yeah. My fault,
of
chat.
multiple buildings for hours.
Okay.
And I could imagine that there was also jet fuel that was causing combustion to occur. I mean, it's a building. There's a bunch of stuff in there. There's gas, water heaters, all types of reasons why something might explode.
Neither one of us are architects, right? The industry I work in, I've seen these beams that are used to build high rises. So you're telling me that just from an explosion from jet fuel and this combination, which has also been, I would say, debunked by others that are experts in not only chemicals and science, which I'm not, I'm taking from them, which they're saying is that this is virtually impossible for buildings to collapse in that way. So there are reference points, and I've seen these just randomly demolitions of old buildings, Vegas, things like that. Why did it look so similar, and how are we saying that this perfect storm of chemicals and explosions and jet fuel could do that to a building where we've never seen an example of that before?
For sure, but there's never been a building that big that's ever collapsed in that manner before as well.
But have seen buildings. I mean, I can't recall the count, but it was overseas. I believe in maybe Turkey, where there was a plane that hit a building intentionally, suicide bomber, and the building didn't collapse. Smaller caliber plane, granted. However, the design, not much off. Does height? I mean, we're not physicists, but does all that thing, does that play into the what we saw with our own two eyes?
Well, one question I have is, what does melt steel beams?
Intense heat. But at what? I mean, again, science. I don't know how thick the beams are. We can go into all of that, but we're just talking about what we know, what we've seen.
Okay, thank you, brother. Appreciate it.
My guy.
Yeah. All right, my next claim is that Hunter Biden's laptop reveals personal issues but provides no evidence linking Joe Biden to criminal conduct or corruption. Let's get into it.
I really don't care about this topic.
Budget to protect him is definitely a disparity. However, I'm everybody who's cracked that approach to my work. I agree. Yeah. Tremendous involved in the board is that Joe Biden pardoned his sample.
So no stuff. That's how
Yeah. That he being a big trillion.
The presidential candidate between it, like, how did they hide that process?
What are you talking about?
I mean, when supposedly Joe Biden, we're talking about the connection between Joe Biden and HUD, and how did the connection with Joe Biden had anything to do with the laptop? Am I right?
Yeah, I mean, there was definitely information on the laptop.
Well, so, I mean, your point. And then trust us that we can figure it out from there.
Is there
You
a
know what I'm saying?
politician that you look at right now that's on the landscape that you look at as like a perfect arbiter of truth?
Well, yeah, but as soon as they become a politician, it becomes hard, right?
But who is
yeah,
it, though?
Yeah.
If you had to put somebody in there.
I'd probably say Thomas Massey is the one guy actually doing his job. Doesn't take APAC money. He goes against.
Well,
we're out of time.
My next claim is the Earth is not flat. It is probably a sphere.
Okay, this is interesting.
Sadil, my guy, how you doing?
I'm good, man. Good to meet you.
Fanboy, pleasure
Good to meet you. I appreciate it, man.
That's right. All right, so I'm gonna do this in 3 different parts, right? 3 different parts, easily, real quick. If we were moving barrel length through space in the widely accepted version that NASA gives us at 64,000 miles per hour, right? While spinning on our axis at over 1,000 miles per hour, the constellations would change every hour. The stars would not be able to remain the same. Polaris, one star in the middle that all the other stars circle. The further you get away from Polaris, the faster the stars are moving. The closer you get inside of it, the slower they're moving. This star has not moved for eons, centuries, hundreds of thousands of years, which would be impossible if we were barreling through space.
Well, the question is, Antarctica is kind of the biggest thing when I talk to flat earthers. So Antarctica, right? If you were to enter Antarctica from beneath Argentina, right, Tierra del Fuego, and get onto Antarctica, if you went through the whole thing, would you pop out on the other side of the sphere, on the other side of the southern hemisphere?
So when we talk about the Antarctic wall, right, it's not a sphere or a flat surface. It's a bandwidth. It's almost like a snow globe. You understand? So where the firmament is making the actual the solidified structure of close. The solidified structure that we're standing on is the Earth, and the Antarctic ice wall is around it. Encapsulating everything that we're in right now. So leaving outside of that, of course, you would get to more places, more pieces of the Earth. You know, that we've been regulated away from.
Yeah. So the ice wall is not infinite, or it is infinite?
No.
So what's past the ice wall?
Other civilizations.
Oh shit!
Yes,
so
sir.
on the same plane, there are other parallel societies.
Absolutely. Have you heard of Agatha?
No.
Agatha is believed to be the Hollow Earth, and there are different Hopi prophecies. There are different different Native American prophecies in which they describe an ant people, an entire civilization. This will talk about the Atlanteans, even however you would like to call it.
Yeah.
But on these old maps, once you pass the ice wall, there are other continents just outside with different types of ligers, different types of genetic splice, different type of aliens that you would call it.
Yeah.
So whether or not you would say they're extraterrestrial, interterrestrial, whatever it will be, that's connected into the Anunnaki thing. But
Yeah.
it's almost impossible that the science that NASA gives us to deceive gives us. You feel me?
I mean, just on a base level, I hope that what you're saying is true. On like a
Absolutely.
science fiction adventure level, I want to go there and talk to the ant
The
people.
world's way more interesting, right?
But the big question is, what is the benefit that NASA would have in convincing us that the Earth is round as opposed to flat? Like, what's the benefit for them?
Strongest indications of the slave mind is to get you to deny what you see with your own eyes. To get you to be able to see how close the sun is, how close the moon is, to be able to see the waters above and the waters below, to be able to connect these things in nature to yourself and deny it because somebody tells you that's not true.
So
That was
Thanks for your
tough,
time,
bro.
I appreciate it.
That was tough. Just that clip right there itself. That's all we need out of this video, to be real. That boy talked his talk,
What's going
bro.
on, man? Thanks for
And
coming.
that just leads into going into different things. Let's see what bro say
Good
though.
to meet you. Thanks.
We were gonna see what
My
he said.
first question for you is, do you know what NASA means in Hebrew?
Oh shit! Are you a Hebrew Israelite?
Somewhat. I think it's in
Okay.
my blood.
Okay, cool. Respect.
Yeah.
What does NASA mean?
To deceive
In what language?
in Hebrew.
Is that true? Do we have a Hebrew
100%.
scholar around
Yeah,
us?
100%. You can look it
Okay.
up on your own time,
Mhm.
for sure. When you talked about the stars' light not reaching the Earth because of the time delay of what is it, space travel or things like that, I think the true answer to the question is the stars are placed into the firmament. Genesis 1 verse 4, the stars are placed into the firmament on like the fourth day of creation. So these are not vast, distant bodies moving through outer space, going, losing all of their energy, and then that light getting to Earth 100,000 years later. The reason they are stationary, like my gentleman mentioned, is because they're placed in the firmament. They're not going to move. They're going to forever be just in the place where God placed them.
So what is the sky?
The sky is a hard, tangible expanse. It's the reason it's called the firmament. It's a dome. We live in a snow globe, right?
On a deeper level, though, like how would NASA benefit from, you know?
Oh, I love the question. I forgot that.
Yeah.
You're hiding God's handiwork. God is the creator. As soon as I change what he created, I bring into question his existence. Or you understand what I mean?
Right.
So also NASA, when you take a T, the letter T, and you place it inside of NASA, you now get, and you play a little bit of scramble, you're going to get the word Satan. So what we're getting at now is a diabolical game of Satan versus God, and Satan's move to debunk or displace the existence of God in real time, in real life, in people's minds. Once you do that, when you pass away, you are now in jeopardy of going to a place called hell that Jesus preached about a lot.
Right.
So it's very important to discredit or debunk the existence of God.
There's a pretty major religious undertone to all this stuff.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
100%. But we can see that even coming away from flat earth, when people go into comas and things like that, we are spiritual beings in a temporary vessel.
Yeah.
So the metaphysical is 100% more prominent in our lifetime than the physical.
Have any flat earthers like gone together to Antarctica to like try to see if they
low-key
could get
chopping,
You got
he
that
low-key
peace
talking.
treaty. You got that the Antarctic treaty that came. So Operation.
He low key was
Thank
talking.
you,
He low key was talking.
Yeah.
Okay, we might give this last person a chance too with his globe.
Hey, how you doing?
Hello.
Hey,
Hi.
thanks for coming. I appreciate it.
Hi. Great to be here.
Great to see you here.
My name is Day. My profession, I'm a shaman. I'm a Heyoka empath. I am a singer, songwriter, producer, and I incorporate my music in with what I do.
It's amazing.
And so when you were talking about Antarctica and why people haven't been able to go there and all the restrictions. So do you know about like astral traveling and or things about the government was doing studies of trying to remote view?
No, but it sounds great. Can you tell me more about it?
Yes. So what you can do is you can get to certain levels of your consciousness through different stages of awakening. These happen, like we were talking about, like Native Americans.
Yeah.
This is normalized because people that would come out and have special, what is seen today as mental health issues, like dissociative identity disorder or different parts, we were acclimated to a part of shamanism, and our gifts were used to help the collective society. But because we are in the 21st century here, it is not as seen or recognized. So when we're talking about flat Earth, first we have to think about the things that they conceptually tell us about in school. Think about when you were in kindergarten. What was it first? What was your first experience? What was it? Colors?
As far as introductory teaching, when they started teaching us about history, the globe was one of the first things they pointed to.
Exactly, and the circles and the shapes, and they start teaching us how to conform naturally with what is going on. But in kindergarten, we have rainbows. We are on that divine frequency. We actually know a lot more of what's going on when we're children than we do as the older we get. It's actually removing us from programming that we're actually sent with when we get down here. So throughout school, they start giving us things to start shaping us into thinking how they want us, which we become in the workforce.
I think that's totally true, especially if you look at like elementary schools. And I always thought that like school was kind of a government psyop to get people to be like non-creative, cheap humans. But also it makes it so you can make friends. Like if you get homeschooled, you can kind of become like a little awkward and have a hard time being around other kids when you're like 10.
But what's wrong with being awkward?
I mean, that's a great question.
That
If
is
you're
a social
awkward watching
conformity.
this, I love you. I don't want you to feel weird.
Exactly.
However, people are kind of mean-spirited, so it's good to get thick skin, right?
Yes, that thick skin. And because of that thick skin being able to be developed, it is not that I am here trying to change your mind into thinking the same way that I do. It is the natural process of how I came up over this information, because they have so many things that they're already introducing us to. Black holes, circles, the things that are already around us. The
came
things
across
but
through
nobody put it together. They say double
personal
rainbow. What does
experience.
that
She's got
mean? The
emotional
double
attachment
rainbow
to it,
actually
for
means
sure.
there's two parts of Kundalini awakening. We have the chakra system that is within us. That is actually the rainbow, Roy G. Biv. So if you do Roy G. Biv starting from the first part of your sacral chakra, starting all the way up, you get to your third eye, which is the awakening. And so these are techniques that the CIA started honing in the 70s and the 80s, way before they started introducing it into the general population. So what they were doing is they were using this remote technology and this way of enhancing your brain, teaching people going through these natural processes through just meditation, but they were using, then it gets into the psychedelic realm of things. But you can do this naturally because it's all a divine code. It's just God. But because when they don't want to be teaching us all of this, they separate it to the upper echelon of people and they give us, little bits and pieces, but then eventually wean us off.
So you think the elites of society have access to this healing method?
Yes, they do. Do you know about binaural beats?
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, so using hemisync and binaural beats frequencies, you can actually sync up the left hemisphere and the right hemisphere of your brain so they're operating on the same wavelength, which actually increases the level of capacity that you can think, because most people are not operating on the full capacity of their brain.
Has that been able to like heal you in certain ways and help you deal with emotional trauma?
Yes, I used to deal with depression, anxiety. I do have DID, so my system is able to operate together as a cohesive set. So we're able to come together when I'm meditating.
Did I call it out, or did I call it out?
At a
Personal
round table, and the
experience.
different fragments of me are able to do my daily functions of what I need to, in life. And so because I started going on this journey, because all the big pharma was trying to do was shove pills down my throat and make me feel like a zombie. But there are other people out here that suffer from different fragments. And I realized this comes into what they've been talking about too, past lives, reincarnation.
Totally.
That's how she got into it, personal experience. I called it out. I know it. She talking too though, but I could tell. You could tell. You just got peak game, man. And as you continue to become wise and jump, you like, yeah.
Andrew, good to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
I like the swag, Danny. It's awesome.
Appreciate you.
Yeah.
So as far as flat Earth, I just wanted to kind of give some facts that I had found. Where do you think that the spherical Earth story came from?
I know we used to have a non-spherical model, and there was a particular scientist who changed that understanding.
Okay.
What was his name again?
Okay, so actually around 2000 BC, before Christ existed,
yes,
almost every ancient civilization believed in a flat Earth system. It was a 3-tier model. So it had the Earth and heavens above and hell underneath. Now what they were speaking about with the firmament is it's spoken as it's actually heaven, but it's also spoken as a very tangible object.
Right.
So when you hit the heavens, you can break through. What we might think that is like a sound barrier, breaking through the sound barrier.
Yeah.
So what they, when you're looking at it, 2,000 years BCE, they ended up losing a lot of that information. It wasn't until around the 3rd to 6th century when Christianity started taking over forcibly many communities and areas and sending their priests down who were the most educated, and so we were following their education system.
Whoa, so you think that the circular earth model is a product of colonization?
Well, between the 3rd and the 6th century after Christ existed, that's when they started forcibly changing the models over. Anyone who started to believe in the spherical globe, they actually were said to be taking those people out. So
you don't think this may be because Western Europe was like a kind of a little bit ahead scientifically from other parts of the world?
Well, I think that that's a good thought process. However, every single person, when you look at Origin or Cosmos, those are some of the philosophers from that 3rd to 6th century. Some of those people believed in the round earth, some of them did not. Interestingly enough, Origin, he had the money backed up from Europe, and he had allies that were very powerful. They actually used his story to start the actual spherical earth. Every single person between the 3rd and 6th century who did state that the earth was round and that they started using those as models, they actually were all related to Christianity. So every single one of them was high up in the church before they adopted their scientific studies. At that point, they had discredited thousands of years of written down studies that had very clearly explained how the 3-tier model system works.
So I'm thinking, like, I saw a Red Bull video one time, right, where they have that guy, I think his name was Felix or something. They take him on a satellite very high above where planes fly, and he jumps out of there and he parachutes down and he lands somewhere in the desert. But in that video on YouTube that I've seen before, you can see the curvature of the earth begin to form. I also see satellites in the sky, and I know that it's currently dark in Taiwan and the sun's out here in LA. All those things to me seem like, to a certain degree, irrefutable proof that there is some kind of curvature here on this planet.
The sun moving, though, specifically, let's say hypothetically it wasn't a sphere, let's say it was a flat circle. If the sun was underneath and the moon was above, the shadow would still create that same curvature. And
so the sun is a roving luminary on a 2-dimensional plane. When there's 3 layers in the firmament and God created it, and you feel like the actual globe model was created by atheists who were trying to smite the word of God and make it seem as if we're just people on a rock floating through cold space.
I believe that there was people who were looking for very in-depth scientific analysis prior, and we still follow a lot of those people as far as their ideologies, and we study them in school.
We're out of time. Thank you, bro.
No, I appreciate it.
Yeah, hell yeah.
That was a smooth segment. That's smooth. We ain't gonna see the rest, though, but that was smooth.